So you're a civil engineer. You want to become a manager, a project manager, or a leader. All of those roles have different responsibilities. In this week's episode of the Civil Engineering CEO, I have with me Ryan Getz. Ryan is the CEO of WGA Consulting Engineers, and he drops a lot of great hints, tips, advice, and strategies for growing as a leader as an engineer in this episode. And one of them I'm going to give you right now. He said that the difference between a manager and a leader is that as a manager, you can impact those that you work with directly, but as a leader, you can impact layers in your organization. And that's a big distinction and a big difference. It's something to think about as a leader. So with that, let's get into all the advice that Ryan has to share today. But first, a quick word from our sponsor, Tensar, a division of CMC.
Check out Tensar Plus, the award-winning design software for construction professionals to design with geosynthetics and calculate their value on projects. Tensar Plus is simple to use with a powerful engineering system at its core. It leverages our decades of research and experience with soils all over the world, so you can count on your solutions working the first time, even in the most difficult conditions. Whether you're designing a crane pad or need to build a temporary road over muck, the cost, time, and carbon savings can be calculated, making comparison with alternatives simple. Specs, reports, and product data can be generated for your design, and training resources, research, and our third-party expert reviews are all provided conveniently in the software if needed. Usable both online and offline, the app is available in browser and on all major mobile platforms. Whatever you're working on, Tensar Plus is your toolbox for success.
All right, now I'd like to welcome our guest onto the episode for today. Ryan Getz is a licensed professional engineer. He's also the CEO, senior managing partner, and co-founder at WGA Consulting Engineers. Ryan, welcome to the Civil Engineering CEO.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's been a couple of years since we talked, and things are going well. And I'm always happy to connect with you. And you're kind of the center of what's happening and what's changing in this marketplace with civil engineers. So it's awesome. Thanks for having me.
No, for sure. And yeah, Ryan was on our civil engineering podcast back in October 2021. So it has been a couple of years now. And at that time, WGA, and it was growing. And, you know, from my quick conversation here before we started with Ryan, it sounds like we're still in the same boat. But Ryan, for those that aren't familiar with, you know, WGA, maybe just start us off there and give us a little background of the company and, you know, where you're located, the type of services you offer.
Yeah. So to try to keep this under 3 hours of conversation, so I'll try to keep it short. Steven, my business partner, and I formed a company in 2007, literally out of his garage with one computer and two type A personalities fighting for that one computer with no clients. That's the founding. And of course, we started when we were 29. So I kind of consider 29 like peak ignorance for men. And thankfully we had that asset to us. And so that's kind of was. From there, we over the 15, 16, 17 years have been able to grow and diversify, change our management styles almost by trial and error, and always maintain our core business values and being conservative. I was raised in a small business family, you know, so we never ever got out front of our skis. And so currently where we are, that was kind of our initial foundings. And to where we are today, we're sitting around 90, 95 employee members of the organization. Last time we talked, I think we were probably 60. And we have 3 different offices currently. We have 2 in East Texas, 1 in Houston, 1 north of Houston in the Woodlands, which we actually just doubled the office of that one. I mean, they're taking that office Monday. And then we have 1 Central Texas in San Antonio. And so amongst our organization, currently we're probably 33% public sector and 67% private. And so that's on the public sector has been growing as well. Some of the services we provide on the public side, we provide a lot of infrastructure design, water, wastewater for public entities, small cities, usually less than 50,000 people, and small utility districts. We also do a lot of water and sewer, linear utility replacements for small water operators. And that's growing tremendously. I mean, literally, we can't grow fast enough to show, like I told you before, to try to maintain healthy teams. That's our number one goal. Always maintain healthy teams over everything else. On the private side, we're continuing to grow even more in Houston and Central Texas on anywhere from site work to land development to multifamily, and all these components have water and wastewater components to them, and also very complex drainage settings. And anyone that has heard about Houston, we've had 10 record rainfalls in the last 15 years. And so the drainage industry, the H&H industry is changing dramatically. And so we've been able to keep up with the change and run our own H&H team. And a lot of engineers reach out to us to help them with their drainage issues. And so it's been really healthy. It's been great. It's actually been a lot of fun. We make mistakes and we own up to them, and we try to run towards conflict so there is no conflict. So it's been good.
So you're not in the garage anymore?
No. Well, sometimes I do miss the garage because, I always say the bigger you get, the bigger the problems, right?
Yeah.
And
right.
so, funny story, back when we started a long time ago, when you start a company, you spend a lot of time doing nothing because you're waiting on the phone to ring, or you're trying to call people and you act like you know them, and you're doing all these things to try to act like you know what you're doing, but you're 29 peak ignorance, like we talked about. We actually spent a lot of time like throwing the football in the front yard, which was awesome.
Yeah, no, it's kind of the evolution of a company too, which we've experienced here. And you're right. It's like, now it's kind of like trying to figure out how to squeeze stuff in and figure out what to do next and figure out the right things. But I know from our conversation previously that you've always been really focused on, building an organization where the employees come first. That's like a big deal to you and something you really focus on. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about kind of your philosophy and your approach to kind of fostering that company culture that does prioritize employees, and like what you've seen as a result of that philosophy.
So I've always felt that way since the beginning. But again, it kind of goes back to being 29. You don't really know what you're doing yet. And you're kind of in the first 10 years of your business, you almost feel like you're in survival mode. And you want to get more work, try to hire people. And through this process, and about 8 years ago, we rolled out our values, which is accountability, respect, empowerment, attitude, effort, efficiency. And with those values, it allowed us to actually figure out, how do we want to manage this entity? Because I'm an employee too, by the way, right? So my perspective is really important. And so is the perspective of the person that started yesterday. And I always say this: everyone's job is their most important job.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter who's at the, and it takes every single human being to make it work. If this room was full of Ryan Getz's, it would be a mess, right? And I've done every step from the very bottom to the very top, but we've had to let go to allow and trust other people to do it. And so we really entered a leadership servitude business model, officially, probably about 5 years ago. And the way we do that is we take an active role in goal setting with every member of our organization. And it's not done in a way where it's exhausting. When I originally had my first two jobs, like when they gave me a review, I could tell they were exhausted. They didn't want to talk to me. They didn't want to talk about anything. They didn't want to talk about the emotional intelligence of, hey, my career is important to me. But my review was done in 10 seconds, and they told me my 3.5% raise and went on yelling at me about a project. And I'm like, what? Yeah, I know we got projects, but this job is my most important thing. So, that aspect of every single job, every single individual here, their job is most important to them. And if you really honor that and you want to build trust with your team, they feel it. And you have to be authentic with it. And if you're not authentic with your intentions, people can feel that, and they will not believe in that leadership style. It's one of the hardest ones to do because you can't fake it.
Yeah, no, and you make a good point, right? Everyone has so many things going on. You're not thinking about what the other person's focus is all the time, and knowing that like what they're working on is everything to them, right? That's their craft. That's what they're focused on. And I think as a leader, you kind of have to be able to put yourself in their shoes and talk to them about that, and, and get feedback from people. And I do think that's important. And you mentioned something earlier, before we started the interview, we were chatting a little bit about how firms in the industry are so busy right now, and everyone's like looking to hire. But you make a good point in that if you are focused on your culture and you're focused on employees first, it's not necessarily beneficial to just hire the first person you interview or just keep hiring people as you bring them in. You really have to maintain that integrity of the culture that you've kind of built. So I would imagine that for you right now, being in Texas, being really busy, that's like something you guys really have to balance.
100%. And I was up here a couple of nights ago. We had a happy hour with another company, and we were talking about just how easy it is to hire the wrong person. It's human nature, number one. If you turn on any TV, there's junk TV all over the place, right? It's human nature to want to almost gossip and drama, but those things can rip apart a company, and it only takes one. And so, what's your sacred cow? What's the thing you will not sacrifice? It has to be your culture. And if your culture doesn't fit, then what are you doing? And I've called companies before, and I've heard different companies say, you answer the phone. When they answer the phone, you can tell the person that answers the phone is kind of having low energy. You can feel that they're not happy where they are. And then the opposite of that is you've called companies where the person answering the phone is energetic. They're happy to hear from you. They don't run from conflict. And they've been trained in all these the EQ of how to deal with individuals. And there's a complete difference. And there's organizations that you can walk in and the ceiling tile is stained and it's dropping down and the lights don't match. And it's kind of a low energy, kind of a tired or, flow and feel within the organization. And the exact opposite of that is when you believe in the people and you give them you have great benefits, great opportunities, you have all sorts of events outside of work, and you really tie into who they are. Because guess what? I'm an employee too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really important. You reminded me of one of my favorite books, which is The Score Takes Care of Itself by the late, great NFL coach, Bill Walsh. And what he said in the book, which aligns with what you said, was he came to the 49ers. They had a 2-win season. 24 months later, they won the Super Bowl. And the reason for it was that he tried to instill these great habits across the organization. So he said that he spent time with the administrative assistant who answered the phone, and he spent time with Joe Montana, showing him how to do his plays the right way, because everybody in the organization, their attitudes and their habits drive the success of the organization from A to Z type of thing. So
100%.
It is.
And that one person walking down the hall that's just moping, when it's not it's just the environment. It's so easy to spread. And so you have to keep in the organization this ability to maintain multiple perspectives, ability to maintain an open mind toward things, and give people space when they need it, and make sure that they know that our doors are always open. They can walk into our office anytime. Like I said, I was up here for a happy hour when we were doing with another company, and there was 10 people there, and I hung out and BS with them about nothing.
Right. Yeah, no, it is important. And so one of the other things I wanted to talk a little bit about was I think the bigger kind of events for engineers, civil engineers in their careers is when they're taking a transition into a management position. It's a real big part of one's career. And, you've obviously done that in your career. Obviously you took a big step, founding a company and starting a company. That's a huge leadership role. Can you talk a little bit about that transition into going from doing a technical work to becoming a manager, becoming a leader? What do people need to be aware about when they're doing that? And what advice can you share from your experience?
Man, it's hard. It's hard. And, no one really, there's no school that will teach you this. Mm-hmm. I mean, you only learn this by, if you could record previous versions of me thinking that I was a leader when I was not a leader, or I thought I was a manager and I wasn't a manager, man, there'd be blooper tapes all over the place, right? So never expect perfection. It won't happen. Be kind to yourself, but also be real to yourself. There are some amazing people that can find amazing positions running a technical role. And I hear that a lot of people want to be project manager, but that might not fit their strengths and weakness. And so a lot of it comes down to self-awareness. Mm-hmm. And so it's important to have processes in place that allow people to try out certain things. Like in our process, we have a window in which you can attempt to be an assistant project manager. But to be an assistant project manager, you have to do certain things that are over and above doing your technical job. And so with our management styles, our members of our organization get to see it and how they're doing as they step through it, so there's no guessing. And then if they do well and they want to move to a PM, there's a job available for them. If they don't like it and they want to move back to the technical side, they can move back that way. And then even moving to a leader is even harder, because being a manager is difficult, but a manager can, we'll say air quote lead, because it's not leadership yet, up to 10 people. I can tell 10 people what to do and get that stuff done. But to be a leader, I got to influence down 4 to 5 layers. And that's really hard, because to be a leader, you have to understand your strengths and weaknesses. You have to, I always say this, and I don't know if you can put this on there, but the leaders are always the one that have to eat the turd sandwich, while the people below, they get all the awards, and the leader always takes the lumps.
Right.
But you have to be prepared to take the lumps. And being a leader also means you have to check your ego at the door. And you have to have the capacity open to everyone that's working for you to help them in their issues. And that's a really hard thing to do. And it takes a lot of maturity. It takes a lot of self-awareness, and it takes a lot of messing up. So my main thing was like, be patient. You know, I can remember at my first year, my first job, I wanted to be the president of the company too. And that's just unrealistic, but I wanted it. And it took some years for me to kind of get knocked down to realize, okay, for me to get there, I'm not that special than anybody else. I'm just a regular engineer that I need to be open to learning. And just because I might know how to be the best wastewater treatment plant designer doesn't mean I know how to manage people. And it definitely doesn't mean I know how to lead people. Even managers always can't be leaders. And so just be open and curious, right? And that would be my main recommendation is get mentors. That people don't have to know that you're the mentee for them, but watch them.
Yeah.
What do they do right? What do they do wrong? I mean, everyone has parts of their, I have 5 or 6 mentors. They don't know it.
Yeah. No, it's, and I really like what you said about the idea that as a manager, you can have an impact on the people that you're directly working with. But as a leader, you need to go multiple layers beyond that. I think that's a great way to characterize the difference there, because it is true. I think when you're a leader in an organization, you have people at every level that are kind of watching you, just like you're suggesting, watch people that are doing it. They're watching you and they're kind of following your lead. They're following your energy, like you said earlier. Right. And so that, if you're thinking about making the transition from an engineer to a manager, that may be your first step, and then ultimately to a leader, the impact that you have on people should continue to grow, like as you grow as a leader. And you have to be, aware of that. And I think, to Ryan's point, being open to watching others do it and learning from your mentors is really going to help you. Because as Ryan said, when he started his comment, there's no class on it. And really, you learn it from others, and then you're going to learn some of it from doing it. And that's really how we learn most of our things in life.
And you have to be open to criticism. Human beings, we tend to self-sabotage. All of us do. I still do it, right? I mean, there's not probably one person out there that doesn't self-sabotage. And so the only way to really know the impact that you're having with people is have trusted mentors that can give you the real feedback. And it's tough to hear. Some guys tell me things I do that right and wrong, and I'm like, God, that's hard to hear, but it's the truth. And if I'm going to commit to this position, then I got to be open to receiving feedback from trusted people.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, it is. You have to be open to getting that feedback, good or bad, and then implementing it, right? And getting better and continuing to improve every single day. That's a big deal. So you mentioned that at WGA, you have core values: accountability, respect, empowerment, effort, attitude, and efficiency. And I know in a lot of companies, they stick them on the website. They never look at them again, but I know you're really focused on living these out. So talk about how these core values have really influenced the company's growth and the success you've had.
So we rolled out our core values in 2017-18. And Stephen and I sat in a room and really kind of processed what we thought those might be. And we found accountability, respect, and empowerment. And those words were put together by us. And it was actually a very emotional day, because our core values really are brought to us as children by people that influence us. And these are the things that we live by with our families, with our friends. And we realized we need to have this in our organization. And we realized we weren't. Even I wasn't being accountable at the time. Even my business partner, Stephen, wasn't in certain aspects. Once we rolled those things out, we lost half our organization, but we hired 2/3 more. And the management of all the members started flowing and becoming smooth, because that was their values as well. So once you roll out your values and you shine it bright, and I'm not talking about painting on the wall, I'm talking about living it. And once you live those, And then a couple of years ago, we added attitude, effort, and efficiency. And it goes under our management mantra. One of my favorite things is when my kids were young playing soccer, the coach would be like, attitude and effort. All I need from you is attitude and effort. I can't make you do that. And we use the same thing here. It's really simple. We can control we want accountability, respect, and empowerment those are the basic values that we would like out of ourselves and all of our members. Now, only I can control my attitude and my effort. That's an individual thing that no boss can control of anybody else. So it's each one of our responsibilities as an individual that I control my attitude, I control my effort, and then with the right training, efficiency shows up. And so if we focus on these things, you really build a tight-knit team of human beings. If we were working with robots, we wouldn't have to worry about any of this stuff. but since, Anthony, you got your strengths and weaknesses. Ryan has his strengths and weaknesses. You got your problems. I got my problems. And we all have to decide to show up every day because people look up to us. And people even look up to the technical engineer that's doing some complex drainage model. People look up to them. And so you got to show up every single day with your attitude and effort.
Yeah, that's important because, yes, your leader, your manager, your company will play a part in your professional development by supporting you and investing in you. But you're the one, to Ryan's point, the only one that could bring the attitude and effort every day to be able to meet what they're giving you. You need the two of those things together to be successful. And it's true. I mean, the same thing happened with my daughter playing soccer. The coach always told us, your daughter's very aggressive, which is great because we can't teach that to anyone, right? We can teach them how to dribble. We can teach them how to pass, but we can't teach them to be aggressive. They have to show up and they have to kind of bring that every day. And the same thing goes, in the workplace. And that's something that for those of you out there that are listening, you have the power over how you show up, basically. No one else controls that, right? So, when you show up each day, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, whatever the deal is, going back to what Ryan said earlier, right? Getting on the phone with someone, getting on a meeting with someone, right? Like the way you show up is almost like half the battle, and then things will unfold and things will happen, but nobody can dictate that to you. That's on you, essentially, to show up. Right?
And we all have clients that invest a ton of money in projects that we're working on. I mean, engineers make a huge impact in society. I mean, all this beautiful stuff can't be built without our input. And the energy and effort and attitude and how we treat our team members and how we empower others, how we respect people and whether we show up for it really can dictate, number one, the organizational health, but also the health of our infrastructure and our clients. And all they want to do is hear on the other line someone that is high energy and has these values.
Yeah, for sure. So you and Steve started the company in 2007 in the garage. A couple of years ago, you came on the podcast. You guys were around 60. Now the company is around 100. You've increased your billings pretty substantially. Talk about some of the key leadership actions or strategies or principles that's really driven. I mean, it's really great growth. What has driven that growth? What would you say, looking back on it now, are some of the key things that you've done as a company to really drive the growth?
So before we started this, I tell you, we do not hire people for the sake of hiring people. We hire the right people that fit our values so we can grow in a safe, sustained way, right? Number one, if we hired people based upon the amount of work we could have, we would probably be double the size, but it'd be absolute chaos, right? So very instrumental to our growth in the last 2 to 3 years since the last time we talked was once we got our values aligned in 17 and 18, we started realigning our organization into a leadership servitude business model. And we really got our act together. It allowed us to attract amazing professionals, amazing leaders that can take our leadership and their own leadership and grow in a whole nother way in a whole nother department. We've been able to pull in, we now have like I think a 3 to 4 person director. We have amazing director of people. We have amazing operator, all the back of house, which allows us to maintain our values and our organizational strength. If I went and hired 100 engineers tomorrow, you can imagine if I don't have the back of house right, that turns into chaos. So always maintaining values, always maintaining a very calm sense of the business, and all while maintaining cash flow, right? Because we have zero debt. We grow this naturally. We have opportunities all the time from people to want to buy WGA or lend us money. We're like, nope. We're going to grow this the old style way, just by on our own natural growth. And so it's been attracting very professional individuals that match and align with our values, that would only give us a look if they understood the vision and they understand the why behind it. They didn't do it for the engineering. They did it for the organization.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really like that. And I think it's a trap that a lot of companies in the industry today fall into, because like we talked about earlier, you do need, there are a lot of empty seats in companies. They're looking for people, looking for positions. There's lots of work out there. But to your point, really taking a well thought out approach where you're bringing on team members that match the values of the company, that are in line with where the company wants to go, is critical. And so you might be able to make a few hires in the short term just to say, hey, we're going to keep our projects going. We got a lot of backlog, et cetera, but it's going to hurt you down the road, and it's going to come back to kind of haunt the company if you're not being really intentional about your hiring, process. And I think to your point earlier, the values give you a great backdrop for that, because right, when you interview someone, you can say, how do they line up with these?
Oh, 100%. It's so easy, because when people don't align those values, they take themselves out of the equation.
Right. Yeah.
No, you don't have to worry about it. It does it on its own.
Right. Yeah. It's like a way of ensuring that you have the right fit, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So I know, Ryan, that you have a passion for servant leadership. And, I don't know, not everyone's familiar with servant leadership in that model. Maybe you could talk a little bit about it and how kind of it's reflected in your leadership style and your interactions.
So servant leadership, from my understanding, is, most people know corporations are kind of a pyramid. The boss is at the top and everyone works for the boss and spreads at the bottom. Servant leadership is upside down. So basically, I work for everybody. And our leaders are currently, I work for them. Like I report to them. Their guys report to them, and it's an open policy in which anything can be questioned. We welcome questions. We welcome conversations. We, again, part of our management style, which I discussed before, is we do significant quarterly check-ins with goal setting, where your perspective, Anthony, is just as important as my perspective. If you were my boss, we would set goals together and we'd shake our hands. We'd both sign documents, and it'd be very understood how it's happening. So I have a say in my career working for you. Now you get to hold me accountable, right?
Yep.
But I get a say in my career. And so with that upside down pyramid, and guess what? I work for everybody. And there's people that will come to me that maybe they're afraid to talk to their manager about something, and I'll help guide them on how to go through the appropriate channels, and won't say a word to anybody. But if they need me to short circuit it, I can short circuit it. And so I kind of help them guide through the conflict that they have and how to deal with the conflict.
Yeah, that's great. And I think the way you explained it is the way that I've seen it explained very well too, graphically, with the triangle, where, most companies have the kind of the CEO at the top and everyone's kind of looking up at them, whereas servant leadership flips that upside down. And like you said, you're serving everybody at that point as the leader of an organization or leader of a team, right? This applies to any leader in an organization. So, and really what it does is it shows people that their leader cares about their development and their growth. And then what I've always found is they're just going to want to work harder, because if someone's investing in me and someone cares about me, someone believes in me, then I'm going to do a lot more than if I think that they don't.
100%. And the funny thing is, it's not on our end. It's not to get people to work harder at all. It's because it's important that every single individual is fulfilled with what they're doing.
Right.
It's like I was reading this book. I can't remember what the name of it is. We have a limited time to live, right?
Yeah.
It's going to go by like this. It's going to go like that. And every single day, I know there's boring days. Trust me, for me, sometimes I'm like, oh, I did nothing today. Right. But if you can look across the whole of your career, and if you can realize that you made an impact, just even how you treat the 4 people around you, that spreads. And that purpose-driven belief, man, it feels so much better than just money. Now, money is important too, right? But you add a competitive salary, great benefits, and then purpose-driven incentives and how you operate. It's like you have everything.
Yeah. No, it's a big piece of the equation because I think a lot of companies in the civil engineering space today are doing well financially. They could probably, be competitive with salary and stuff, but not everyone offers that purpose-driven opportunity for people to get onto a team that they really like to work with and be supported. And that's where I think the firms that are going to grow sustainably that's the currency that they have, right? That other companies maybe don't have. That's like a big differentiator. So what's on the horizon for WGA now? What's coming in the future? What are you excited about? What can we look forward to?
Well, we are continuing to grow. We have some good opportunities. I can't really speak on here about further offices in different areas of the country. We're starting to attract better and better leaders. I mean, when I say better, I'm saying better than me, right? like seriously, hey, that guy's a hell of a lot better at that than me. Get him in the door, right? But the values align, right? And so we're attracting more professional, better leaders that are more purpose-based, and they get the vision, and they're getting tired of these other organizations that they're really managing great individuals and squeezing them for the bottom line. And it's pushing them away. And there's people knocking on my door left and right that want me to open offices all over the place because these antiquated organizations are so financially driven. They're literally squeezing their team and the members of their team for the last dime without really any sort of gratitude for them. And that's their perspective. That's their organization. There's no judgment on that, but it's really starting to turn a lot of this is not our grandfather's organization. This is not a grandfather's workplace anymore. Right. We have to, obviously this isn't a non-for-profit job. This is a company that's for profit, but we also have to take into account the human nature of how these organizations are run. And money is important, but so is purpose-filled employment. And so we have a lot of access to people, and I can't really take them up on all of it because I want to grow slow, and I want to grow in a very conscious way, and in a very intentional way. So there's a lot of great things on the horizon. We have our 5-year vision plan put together, and we're going to get it. No question. No question.
No, I think it's great because I think what you guys have done well is you've built a company around these values that you all believe in, and now you can just keep bringing people into that family if they fit into that, if they align with those values and they're interested in those values. And that's how you grow something sustainable, something over the long term. And to me, you can take a risk and open up an office because you have the right people that can help you get it done. Whereas if you didn't, taking those risks becomes harder because, you're maybe not as confident in what you're building because you're not built on those values, which is, I think, kind of that what we talked about before and building it the right way, whether it takes a little slower to hire people because you're doing it more intentionally. And then you have that strength and that power.
And if our organization was based upon just growing as fast as possible, I could open 10 offices tomorrow. And if a private equity guy were to come by and say, hey, here's $10 million, or get 10 offices, let's do it. Number one, I would say that's not for me. There's someone else in here to do that, but it could happen. But that would only last so long, and it would change the values of the organization. This thing would be completely different in 5 years, and that's just a different business model.
Right. Yeah, 100%. All right. So Ryan, just to kind of close us out here, what is any last pieces of advice or lessons that you can share, big picture from your experience as a founder, as a CEO, that you can leave with the civil engineers watching for today?
Well, I can tell you this. I've done every single aspect of being a civil engineer, from drafting to designing, to single-family subdivisions, wastewater treatment plants, to site design, to H&H drainage models. Just be curious, man. Always be curious, remain an open mind, be open to perspectives. Sometimes I know it's not easy because sometimes you feel like you're under the gun, and sometimes you can be stressed out on things. But my success has always been willing to always reinvent myself. I'm on version 21 now. I'm beta testing 22. Like when I talked to you last time, I was probably 19. But being open to criticism, being open to learning, being open to the guy who's your manager might not be the best influence for you. Maybe not. Just ask the question, right? And the more curious you are about it, the more you can start to understand how the world works. This is just all one big game anyway. And as soon as you learn about strengths and weaknesses, as soon as you learn how to play it, as soon as you learn what's realistic, you can start making real moves. and enjoying what you're doing. Trust me, I didn't want to be a civil engineer a long time ago. I just did it because my dad told me to do it. And I'm like, sure. When I was 18.
Yeah, no, it's good advice, right? Just keep evolving, keep being open to learning more and growing, because you'll become a manager, maybe become a project manager. You'll be very excited about it. You'll do some things good. You'll do some things bad. Hopefully you'll get good advice, good feedback, and then you'll evolve to the next level of leadership. Like Ryan said earlier, maybe then you can affect many levels of your organization as you grow. And that's just the value that you have. So that's awesome. So Ryan Getz from WGA Consulting Engineers. Ryan, thanks so much for spending time with us once again here on the Civil Engineering CEO. We really appreciate your time.
Hey, man, Anthony, great to see you, man. Catch up to you here soon again.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Ryan. He is a dynamic leader. He understands values and growth, and I hope that you can implement some of that into your personal career and into your firm. Please consider subscribing to our channel here. We do put out videos like this on a weekly basis to help engineers become better managers and leaders. I'll see you next week.